So something kind of struck me just a while ago, and that is that PlayStation's business model when it comes to exclusivity and its partnerships with its different studios is a model of do as I say, not as I do. Now it is tongue in cheek. However, I think one of the reasons Square Enix might be bailing to find more audiences is simply because PlayStation is bailing to also find more audiences and more people to buy their games. One thing I got to commend PlayStation for is that they know how to actually find people to buy games and they really know how to play the game hardcore. However, their money hiding strategy is one that Xbox hasn't necessarily cared for. And I think Xbox is starting to kind of match that in a different way. Rather than actually money had the games, they take the games, they put them on a value proposition like Xbox's Game Pass. Or if they don't do that, they just invest in their own studios and take the games and put them everywhere. So instead of actually making the games as exclusive as they possibly can, they basically share, which is a very interesting strategy. But if you play chess a bit, you'll realize exactly what I'm saying. And we're going to point to that here very soon. So here is what I wanted to point out. PlayStation is having a lot of these publishers keep their games on their platform. In some cases, delay them even on PC. While PlayStation themselves is now moving closer and closer to bringing its bigger games as day and date. When I say bigger games, it doesn't mean that they're not already games that are day and date on PlayStation. We have Helldivers 2, and then we have formerly existent Concord, which were day one games. What's coming next down the drain, down the pipeline, I guess, is Until Dawn, which right now is a very interesting proposition because there was some news about Ballistic Moon. Don't want to talk about that. It's nothing, nice. I hate that. I'm happy that they're bringing this remake and remaster on the first day. Many of you may or may not remember The Last of Us Part 1 did not come to PC on the very first day. It got a timed delay, and even still, I guess that port was messed up. Maybe that was a delay based on development, but it seemed like PlayStation was doing their, exclusivity thing again in that regard, probably trying to sell the PS5 versions first and then eventually move ahead to try to sell the PC version later down the road. But what's going on is not only is Until Dawn, you have the Lego Horizon Adventures game. This one's also going to Nintendo Switch and is also coming to PC on the very same day. So now to the list of day one launches on PC, you have in total 4 games. Even though you have to remove the existence of Concord, it is still something I consider that. Seeing that PlayStation is making these moves on some of its IPs, you can see why a publisher like Square Enix would say, well, why are we sitting here with you in exclusivity world when you are moving farther and farther away from it? You're inching your way away from exclusivity, yet you want us to stay exclusive with you. And I think this is eventually going to start getting more and more obvious as time goes on. And these publishers are going to realize that, sure, PlayStation could probably give money to us in terms of money hiding these games, but if they make a good game, they can find investors in order for them to be able to get their games made that will work with them and negotiate with them, and they can still get their games multi-platform. What I've been hearing from a lot of people who've played the demo here on PC is that they're not too impressed with what they're seeing from Final Fantasy 16. Now, I would have to wait to play the game to make, a better judgment. However, from the demo, the piece of the demo that I played, even I myself was wondering, man, this is a very slow start to this game. But a slow start doesn't really mean anything. A game can always unfold as you continue to go. And so in that regard, I think this is another thing, too, that a game like this pretty much faces in terms of a challenge. And that is the hype factor is usually best at launch. And that hype factor is what PlayStation wants to bank on when they call you and say, hey, man, can you bring your game to our platform for a timed exclusive? They're banking on using the hype factor to basically push out maybe some console sales, maybe push out the perception that they're, the only place where you can play these games. But here's what happens at the end of the day. By the time these games decide that they're going to go around and come back to the other platforms like PC and all of the above, well, their own, hype factor is already lowered significantly. In fact, sometimes these games come to PC and they come to Xbox and nobody knows that they've made their way to these other platforms until maybe they see it on sale and they're like, oh, this game is already here. And so this list that I made, like Final Fantasy VII Remake or whatever it is, even with the rumors that they might be coming to the Xbox or whatever, is still overshadowed by PlayStation trying to bring out its own PS5 Pro. So these games are in a PR, they're in a stressful PR place. I mean, think about it. Final Fantasy 16 right now comes out in about a week from today. Do you know what's going to actually crowd the airwaves? It's going to be PlayStation 5 Pro or whatever Mark Cerny is, about to unveil. I don't know when you're going to watch this video, but probably maybe before or after, you're going to see that there's already an unveiling of something big, and that hype factor is also going to die a little bit. So when PlayStation says, do as we say, that's bring your games exclusive to us because, it's going to sell a lot, they're not necessarily practicing what they're preaching. Because if they were practicing what they're preaching truly and their games were sustainable on their platforms, they'd leave everything on their platforms. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like what's necessary is that they're able to sell these games to people on other platforms. And thankfully, PC is there, because if not, they'd be in a position where they have to go to Xbox and go find people to buy their games, which is very interesting. So again, at the end of the day, when you start asking and when people start looking at this whole thing about money hatting and exclusivity and all that, saying exclusivity is necessary for games, well, they need to differentiate what kind of exclusivity they're talking about. Are they talking about exclusivity that belongs to, the publisher themselves, like PlayStation or Xbox? Or are they looking at exclusivity where the publisher uses their influence to try to maybe get another game that will benefit them, while at the same time, it may hurt their own, partners that they're seemingly helping, like with their Final Fantasy stuff and maybe with the other games? I thought I'd make this video and I, point this one thing out, because in all honesty, this is something that, a lot of people haven't necessarily considered. And now that Square Enix seems to be bailing out, the considerations are starting to grow much more, and we're starting to look deeper into these scenarios. Thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.